can start. You sure you want to be so far away, huh? Yes, so thank you for coming. I'm very happy that you're here. By the way, I have no idea where you come from, but if you're here, there must be a reason. I think that it would be much easier if I can call you William. Is that okay? It would be much easier for me. Huh? Can I call you William? I mean, not you, but the whole of you. Is that okay? I always feel much better. Hi, Eileen. I just started without you. Mostly nothing. So, dear William, thank you for coming. Feels better? See, the distance between me and you is always the same. You are there and me, I'm here. But don't you have the feeling that we know each other a little bit better? Don't you have the feeling that we are closer? Hi, William? Thank you for coming. Actually, I don't know where you come from, huh? Do you remember how you came here? Do you have a car? Yes. Do you hear me well or not? Good. So, do I have a bike? Who do you have to meet after this? Someone? Don't think too much about it, because you know, you were not thinking about it then. You're thinking about it now. I have the feeling, in fact, that every time we try to make an act of consciousness, we are having something like a beyond human experience. See where I want to go? Look, I walk staircases all day. I guess you walk staircases all day, up and down, right up and down, all day. It's just that you don't notice it, but we are stair walkers. It's just when you miss one step that you understand that you were walking down the stairs. See where I want to go? Easy, no? What I'm trying to say is that my brain can do much better without me. It dreams without me. Right? It doesn't need me. So I think that in a way, every time you try to have a very deep experience of what this I is, you're doing something like a beyond human experience. More or less. More or less. Yes, this tradition of beyond human experience is very old. It started many thousands years ago. And I think one of the first one was death. Do you remember 3,000 years ago, the Book of Dead? That was beautiful. So the soul of the dead has to travel through 12 doors, like the sun, at the moment of the sunset, to reach the sunrise. Do you remember Ulysses, when he went to the wind, to talk to the wind? Can you imagine this? Is amazing. Someone that goes and tells his story to the wind. I mean mathematics, I mean technology, science, all these things now, they allow you to go inside a volcano and see what is happening there, right? Yes, but you will melt like butter if you go inside a volcano. See what I'm saying? Your body will explode if you go to space. Just only thinking about quantum mechanics, I have headaches. My brain goes crazy. Without the tools, without the languages that sounds invented as shelters. Where do I want to go with this? I wanted just to say that probably metaphors, gods, allegories, they were the first techniques, probably, to experience what this body cannot. I think I wrote something very nice here. I said, poetry was doing already beautiful things, connecting this body to its death. Or death. Connecting this body to its death. Huh? The existence, connecting the existence to what doesn't exist yet. I'm not saying, it's not a matter about what is doing better than what. If science is doing better than poetry, or poetry better than science. It's not about this. This is the wrong question to ask. What is the wrong question? I don't know. I have no idea. But I think it's a matter of intensity. So that's why I just invited some very beautiful people tonight, this evening, because I thought that the questions I have about poetry and mathematics and science are not just my questions. And so I wanted to invite those people to, not to give us answers. It's not about this, once again, I'm always wrong. It's not to give us answers, but so we can have together the experience of trying and answering. So I decided to invite Yuhri I Manin, just one of the most important mathematicians of this century. Can I say this? Heavy, yeah? It's very heavy as a responsibility.
Too strong.
Too strong. So can I call you? Can I say that you're a bird, or you prefer Don Giovanni?
Okay, bird.
A bird. So it seems that in fact, I read somewhere that they divide mathematicians somehow into categories. I don't know if it's true, maybe it's just a legend. Some of them are birds and some of them are frogs. So apparently frogs, they prefer their tails and problems and things that approach them and that they can approach. And it seems instead birds, they fly very, very high. Huh? And they see a huge landscape, and they can see through horizons. And where we see borders, they see bridges. Is this okay as a metaphor? As an example? Complicated? Easy, right? And then I decided to invite Yuhri also because every time I read his text, I always have the feeling of traveling. Always from mathematics that I don't understand, through Shakespeare that I understand a little bit better, through the rise of human consciousness that I don't understand at all. And then I decided I thought to invite Eileen Myles. And I thought to invite Eileen Myles because I was listening to Sonic Youth in the 90s. And then I was listening to a lot of music in the 90s. And then when you listen to a lot of music, or a certain kind of music, then you feel that you're part of the scene. And then that's when I discovered Eileen. At that time, she was running a campaign to become president of the United States. I think it was 1991, 1992. And the speech for the campaign was a poem. And I invited her because I thought, if Eileen is here, she can probably go beyond human experience in the sense of the self, to discover the inner self of person, something. And instead, she completely surprised me. She said, no, I'm coming up to something completely different. And I will not say anything more. I don't want to ruin the surprise. And then I decided to invite Serhiy Zhadan, because I think that he can take every subject and transform every subject as a pair of socks. You know when you take a pair of socks and you go like inside out? He's great. He can use metaphors and images and words and show you the inside out of things. And then I thought, you know what? I would like to change ideas. So what better than someone that turns you upside down and inside out? So now I will leave you with this beautiful, amazing people. I will say things more interesting than what I said so far. And I think you really... Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I always love to speak before young people. And also, for some years, I wanted to meet Serhiy Zhadan, and when it turned out that he's invited here as well, I just could not resist. Okay, my self-presentation is called Rainbow of the Universe. This particular rainbow was seen by my wife from our balcony, and she made this picture. And then looking through some physical journals, I found out the quotation, "The rainbow is a bridge between poetry and science." This statement can be interpreted in various senses. Here I wanted to stress just one, that a rainbow excites deep emotions in a human being that can move a human being both toward poetry, one can even say that rainbow is a poetry, and towards science. When I have written this, and when Alex Cecchetti, who is organizing this meeting, has read them, he asked me, but what is a rainbow? Well, a rainbow is something that you sometimes see, but that does not exist objectively. It is an apparition. You can see it if you stand with your back to the sun as an arc or even two arcs. You see the secondary rainbow here. In the sky, consisting of colors of spectrum. It is a combined effect of two refractions and one reflection of sunlight in each of many, many drops of water, forming a part of clouds before you. In a sense, it is as subjective and also as objective as graphic perspective described geometrically during early Renaissance. However, the passage from understanding perspective to the understanding rainbow marks an essential progress in understanding light, from geometric optic to wave optic. And then I suddenly thought that if François Villon asked me, "Mais où sont les neiges d'antan?" This is a recurring line in his Ballad of Dead Ladies, Les Dames du Temps Jadis. He would not expect, Villon would not expect explanations about the physics of melting that turns snow into water, then evaporation of this water, and the resulting clouds that can, in certain conditions, show us a rainbow. But we who know all of this can now imagine that we see in colorful water drops of a rainbow Villon's snows of yesteryear, and even les dames du temps jadis, those beautiful ancient ladies dreamed up by the restless écolier. So this was a bridge, but regarding the science of rainbows, I can cite the following from the actual physical paper. Some of the most powerful tools of mathematical physics were devised explicitly to deal with the problem of rainbow and the closely related problem. Indeed, the rainbow has served as a touchstone for testing theories of optics. When the move the most successful of the theories became known, it is now possible to describe rainbow mathematically, that is, to predict the distribution of light in the sky. After that, I was not surprised that the site poemhunter.com contains about 400 poems about rainbows, and I am sure also that almost anyone sitting in this audience who can start composing her or his rainbow poem after just having had this challenge. What I want to stress here also is the following surprising phenomenon. The two ways leading from rainbow to human heart, the way of scientific knowledge and the way of poetic revelation, are totally disjoint when considered, say, as a sequence of speech acts. Not only poetry lacks formulas, whereas physics lacks literary tropes, or at least they are carefully hidden. Even the words common for both kinds of texts, such as rainbow itself, seemingly acquire quite different meanings along their respective ways leading to or from direct human experience. And the rainbow can serve as a bridge between these lands because it is totally wordless, the rainbow. It is totally wordless. It has no language. It does not need language. It arouses primary feelings that can lead one any way. A few words about me and the universe. I started translating and writing poetry in my teens, but only half a century later decided to try to publish some of it. For me, poetry is first and foremost an expression of human predicament, which consists in consciousness of limits, of beginnings and ends to everything. Let me quote the beautiful stanza by Salvatore Quasimodo. Ognuno sta solo sul cuor della terra, trafitto da un raggio di sole ed è subito sera. Chacun demeure seul sur le cœur de la terre transpercé d'un rayon de soleil, et c'est aussitôt le soir. A rainbow is as transitory can be, but is there anything more eternal than universe? Next, please. The modern cosmology tells us that our universe was born about 14 billion years ago with a big bang, when the universe was very small, point-like, and very hot. Since then, it keeps extending and getting colder. Probably the universe will die, admittedly not very soon, together with everything interesting that we find in it. This vision of the world could crystallize only after the discovery of mathematics, philosophy of general relativity, the development of new technology for observation and interpretation of the cosmic phenomena. It's interesting that one of the founding fathers of the new cosmology was Monseigneur Georges-Henri Joseph-Édouard Lemaitre. He was a Belgian priest, astronomer, and professor of physics in the French section of the Catholic University of Leuven. Lemaitre also proposed what became known as the Big Bang theory of the origin. By 1951, Pope Pius XII declared that Lemaitre theory provided a scientific validation for existence of God and Catholicism. However, Lemaitre resented the Pope's proclamation. There is a story that Lemaitre, together with Pope's science advisor, tried to persuade the Pope not to mention creationism in this context publicly anymore. Lemaitre was a devout Catholic, but he felt that faith and science must be held apart. The life cycle of a human being, and even the existence of life on Earth, is incomparably shorter than the age of the universe. So the study of cosmology can serve one as a powerful distraction from thoughts about brevity of human life, or else to arouse the feeling of the universe as one grand mortal being. Something in human soul, however, raises against this, and recently Sir Roger Penrose suggested a new picture of cosmology in which the stretch between the Big Bang and the heat death of our universe is only one aeon of many, which was preceded and will be followed by similar aeons. It's amazing that reasonably sophisticated mathematical schemes can be created for modeling the cycles of times, and since my last publication was dedicated to this, I wanted to mention it, and I always felt that this mortality of the universe is a raw material for poetry. And I will pass in the second part of my self-introduction by reading two poems. One poem is mine. It is called Late Style. The title refers to the essays by Theodor Adorno and later by Edward Said, analyzing late works by Ludwig van Beethoven, in particular his Ninth Symphony. Now my poem, The Late Style. The deaf, tousled old man is bent over his score. What music is struggling and sorrowing in his brain? A century later, Adorno and Said will assiduously tell us all about the late style. But we really don't need an explanation. The light of the evening sunset once burned through tightly closed eyelids of the skinny 11-year-old street urchin. Thus it still shines, once and forever. The star in the galaxy and the raven on the branch live untroubled by Shakespearean dilemma. Of course, I mean to be or not to be. But we are the late style of the aging universe. Through us, it sings its sorrow. Tarry, my soul, don't rush off there where there is neither shame nor a morning shower. And in the eternal emptiness, there are only flocks of angels, like carcasses frozen in the permafrost. No one commanded, but someone let it happen. Averted his eyes, was distracted by a task a bit more important. And I almost managed to hear the late style, the light of the evening sunset burning even more tenderly. And before passing to the last poem, not mine, a short regression. As a mathematician and a scientist studying objective reality, I have never felt empathy with Protagoras' celebrated motto, man is the measure of all things. For me, there are too many exciting things in the world that are too small, too large, too weird, or simply totally unrelated, even to the existence or non-existence of human beings. However, citing for this pleasant occasion my little opus late style, I suddenly realized that I was trying on the universe as if it were a dressing gown or a bathrobe of extra large size, so that I could take my wife together with me. Perhaps the best remedy for an overwhelming feeling of sadness about the human predicament is a light smile. And I will finish this short talk with the poem Mouse by Alfred Brendel, the great musician and poet with incomparable sense of humor. By the way, tomorrow he speaks somewhere here in Paris presenting his new book. The poem by Alfred Brendel, Mouse. The mouse felt that beyond the world of mice, another, higher, deeper, inner reality, transcended all knowing, squeaking, nibbling ways of the world, like one colossal cheese, awesome, yellowish, with lovely holes, irrefutably sublime. Thank you for your attention.
To let the people escape who are needing to escape. I think it's interesting that, hello, you were talking about, or actually you were talking about wanting to meet this man, and then he was magically drawn to you in this space. And I had something similar, but more as a negative thing, because when we were talking about reading here, I asked if there was going to be a music stand, and I was told there was no music stand. And weirdly, I have a traveling music stand, and I thought about it before I came on this trip. So I feel like one of the things about being a poet is you never know the room you're going to be performing in. And so you imagine it, but you always imagine it wrong. But I think the one thing I did imagine was that there was a music stand, and there wasn't one, and yet I was thinking about mine, and it seemed like it wanted to go from here to there. And so it was almost like you, I feel like you had a successful experience of transporting a person to a space. And I had sort of a shitty experience of transporting a music stand to a space. So this is like just sort of a symbolic music stand, my jacket, and it'll sort of hold up my script in a way. And I think all I need to tell you is that I'm also thinking about what Yuhri was saying about the universe and the universe holding us, and this sort of sadness about being in the universe and not knowing these things. And I was thinking about having a dog and having many dogs or having several dogs. And usually a dog, like I'm 64 years old, and dogs live about 15 years. So I'm about 4 dogs old. And one of the things we feel about dogs all the time is that we kind of measure our life in terms of dogs. And we know, like if I wanted to get a dog now, it might be my last dog, which is sort of sad. And I don't know if I could bear to have that dog, you know? And but what's strange is that I have feelings about a dog because I know that the dog will probably die. I have a feeling I know when the dog will die, and I don't know when the dog will die, you know? But the thing is, the thing about the universe, being a person in relationship to the universe, is that the universe makes me sad because perhaps the universe has a sense of when I will die. But certainly the universe holds me as something that will die. And so part of the relationship to the universe, I think, is a doggy feeling, you know? Or even a hope. I think people's belief in God is a belief that the universe is something that pities me for not knowing. And so I'm kind of like the universe's dog in a way. So I simply wanted to connect your talk to my talk because my book that I'm working on is called Afterglow, and it's about a dog that I had who died. And when the dog was dying, I began writing about the dog, basically to hold on to the dog. And so I owned a dog named Rosie who died in 2006. And so I began to write about her when she was dying. And as soon as I got the dog, because I had always wanted a dog, I looked into the dog's eyes and I felt that I saw my father, who had died. My father was a postal worker, and he died when I was 11 years old, and he was an alcoholic. He died of alcoholism at the age of 44. And so all the time I had this dog, I felt that my father had decided to come back. and be my dog, and that he would do that. And it was a very comfortable feeling. So by the time, I've mostly finished writing this book, and yet I'm not entirely finished. And so as I got closer to the end, the book wasn't long enough, and I started to imagine Rosie coming to me and becoming very impatient and wanting to speed up the end of the book. And so she dictated the last 30 or 40 pages of the book, and so that's a piece of what this is here. And basically she told me that the end of the book was sort of a tapestry, and that she would I would be the weaver, and she would be like the cartoonist, like Raphael, who designs the tapestry. And so most names in here that you hear are either members of my family or dogs, or both, because my belief is that many members of my family either have been dogs or will be dogs. And so right now, Rosie is speaking. And by the way, Peggy, I'm fairly certain, is Nellie. Can that be true? Yes, the dog you so badly wanted, who crawled in your bed, was in fact your paternal grandmother, Nellie O'Riordan. You needed an Irish guide. All the women in the kitchen said that you should take her because that would be the Irish way. But there's no right or wrong way, Eileen. I've watched you spend so much time at the crossroads thinking this or that, because of the absence of one very clear and important idea, which I will now share with you. Longing is not direction. It's okay to feel very sad that this dog is not in your life and you thought she would be. To be a deep and constant well of sadness is a very real thing, but it does not mean that you should go either right or left. It just means you are a well. You need to go on, and especially now, you need to go fast, because you want to cover some land in the time you've got left. I need to finish this tapestry, be done with your book, and resume my own traveling. Your grandmother entered into Peggy because that's what people do all the time, become dogs. And dogs become human that way, and this transmigration of souls is a very Irish thing, remarked upon persistently in literature. But it's wider than Irish or American, more ancient, and we will continue now with our weaving, which I think you understand now is an intuition. A dog talking inside of your head. Listen closely and carry this message to the world. I've been other dogs, and I've been people other than your father. I've been Mani. In fact, that's why you keep getting stuck at the crossroads. Your father was stuck, and so he died, crumpled, but you just kind of pause and scribble a bit, or a lot. Your favorite moment in literature is when Frank O'Hara paused. Did he pause? And thought, I could just make a phone call. It was a dog thought. Robert Johnson paused. You once had a car accident listening to Robert Johnson. He is very important for you. He made a deal with the darkness at the crossroads. It is how he got so great. Like lightning hit those fingers. Give it to me, he said to the devil, and that's what he got. He got it by standing there in between and welcoming the darkness in. You think it's evil, it's something else. It's what's in between. Claim it, own it. You've heard of Manichaeism? It's the struggle between light and dark, and it's very empathetic. It's very thoughtful about the pain of the light particles trapped in all things. The light just wants to get out. I'm Mani. I painted my teaching because if you show a story, it's in the day. It's not trapped in the secret place. I mean, you can barely prove what I said, but I had influence. In fact, people generally know more about me as an anti-belief than a belief. That's okay. I take space. I take space over power any day. My pictures had power and traveled all over the world for about 500 years. I was bigger after I was dead, which I think is kind of my way. And I was trapped in a cell and I died there. What's lost has more power than what is saved, known to be lost. And that tragedy fell within and was felt within the followers. Your mother received a letter from a woman who was on your father's route, number 411 in Harvard Square, and after he died, she wrote your mother to say what a wonderful man your father was. Do you remember this story? No need to reply. I'm taking this right to the end, all of it. I'll introduce people, I might sing a song, but I'm taking it home. I am. Here we go. You've thought about that letter so much because your mother lost it. She never gave it a second. It was the way she survived. And she stood there wavering on a little bit of scar tissue. It was a proud stand. That was her crossroads, and she made a sound, and then she just threw it out. That letter about him, all his letters. He's entirely gone because she needed to keep moving or she would have spent her life at the crossroads. And she built him up as an enormous, invisible man, a letter carrier, a monument, your dad, as someone you needed to see. You have such figures all over your family tree, dogs and letter carriers. Do you know why? I will tell you. To carry the sky, here we go. There's a particular blue, a kind of vibrating denim that was adopted by the US Postal Service in the early 20th century, and it is technically described as blue mixed cadet cloth. The postal uniform is one of my favorite colors, I Manin, I Rosie, I Terence, being illuminated exactly as much and precisely as little as a night sky in winter. In that struggle of night and dark, and this is the exact fabric that depicts a frozen moment, a snowflake moment of color and crystallization that all dogs and precisely calibrated spiritual beings would recognize. Visually, they're colors that are also tones. That's the kind of painter Manin was. He used his color sparingly, just a woof of it. I'm not making a dog joke. I'm making a dog joke. It's an Iranian painter term, and I was born in Persia. I spoke Syriac, Aramaic, but let's be frank, Iran. I was an Iranian holy dog. My book of paintings was called the Arzang. Once I was no longer seated on the holy throne in churches because I was dead, the Arzang would be placed there on the highest seat. It was venerated. It was open. I'm telling you this because in our time, you must make a holy book. A book full of holes about time along the shapes that grace this tapestry. Can I be frank again? This rug, it's a magic rug, and I am a mailman. Your father was a mailman. Your grandmother's brother, Tim O'Riordan from Knocknagowan, Rye Lane, Cork, mailman. Your grandfather's younger brother, who came to be known as Barney, from Dunna-McKenna, Lytton, Monaghan, mailman. It is a shame, Eileen, that you are not a mailman. I smile. Perhaps you are. But the United States, as we know, is a very evil and accidentally spiritual country. It is a Manichaean country. So accidentally, pyramids speak on its money, and so accidentally, the cadet blue of Persia, a vibrating, speaking color, is the uniform of the common U.S. mailman, and your father, Terence, was one. Terence meaning tender. It's no accident. Am I still Rosie? Perhaps you should go and look out the window and see the mixed cadet blue sky. It's a magical time and a thief's time. It's little wonder that the mailmen worldwide do not simply destroy the mail. In the same way that a chorus of dogs will surely defile and piss on this rug when we are done, and the mailman wants nothing better than to destroy the mail. Why? All these men and women who are carrying these bags and carriages through the streets of the world, all of them are dogs. Does this not give you a different and better feeling about the U.S. Postal Service? It was enough for you to learn there have been mailmen going back in your family's history for as long as there was mail, as long as there was writing. The sky is full of pictures tonight. Cadet blue is made up of millions of pinpoints of light coming through from the other side. Other side of what, you might ask? The holes in the tapestry and the holes in the sky are of the same ilk. It is for the purpose of reproduction. No, of course there is not just one night like tonight. It has a copy, and that has a copy. It is out there somewhere. The universe is doubled. I, Manin, was given prophecy by my twin. If you look long at the double sky, the double universe posing as one establishes a massaging effect on your optic nerve, will open a sea of images, which is destiny and time. It is open tonight, and tonight, the night after Christmas, all the messages that were ever sent, will ever be sent, are written in the sky. Why are the postal workers angry? It is not enough to know that they are dogs. Last night I was told on Christmas, of all time, a sad tale. Of course, Christmas is the saddest day of all for me because Jesus was my other. What day was Manin born? We do not know. No copy of his book, The Arzang, exists. We hope this book will be that copy. We know that it sat on a chair and was revered. The dogs who work for the U.S. Postal Service are sending false messages, and it breaks their hearts. The sad story I heard last night was that a dog outside of the service had been killed, had been put down for biting a mailman. This is a slow religious war. The dogs who have taken the body of male men, either from birth or after the time of the age of 13, when a body of one with a weak nature may be intuited, are the natural prey of the dogs in body who are loyal to the picture, not the script. You would think that dogs would hate writers, but it is not so. Each writer is required to tell a dog story, and so dogs attach themselves to writers to spur on the ghostwriting. And a writer might worry that too many dog books are being written and no one will be interested in reading hers and buying it. And obviously, Mary Oliver has written a dog book. Writing a dog book is hard because the writer is in servitude to the dog most clearly now. The dog has been, The dog has been serving the writer for years, opening up her life and getting her out into the air and onto the beaches, and even bringing attractive people into the unattractive life of the writer who never goes out. And now, once he, the writer, succumbs, the dog gives pictures to the writer, which the writer transcribes, and we are seeing it here, most particularly in chapter 20, entitled Transcript, or Rosie at 15, but we think now it should be called Copy, and that is wisdom. And now, in particular, when Eileen is just laying herself down horizontal like a dog, so Rosie can have her say. Peggy has spoken, and even the little dethroned one, Hank, he will have his say too, perhaps on a website. Eileen has a dog soul, and it is Rosie. Eileen had a dog soul, and it was Taffy, and Taffy died. Eileen had a dog soul, and it was Walter, and she gave Walter away and let him be renamed the hideous Nike. She stood on the road like Mani, and she stood too long, and finally even Walter said, "Let me go." Let's put that one right on the tapestry, paws thumping. Eileen, right up here, because it was a very sad moment. You were laying on the floor by the door, and you were looking in Walter's eyes, and you were praying. And Walter put out his paw, and he said, "Eileen, decide," and you thought he meant, "Go, Eileen." You were not a free soul then, Eileen, but you are a free soul now, and that is why you are doing this great work for us, for me, Eileen, and all dogs. And I want to return to the mailman and the letter. What is a letter, Eileen? As your father is floating over the house, and the child with curly hair is agonizing, writing the words, "I will not talk in the corridors, I will not talk in the corridors," you are beginning your weaving, Eileen. Gertrude Stein is a very great weaver. All writers who use the sonic mode in writing are returning the fruits to the cave. I saw that you smashed a red pineapple one day in your farmhouse in Ireland. I hoped you would see the meaning of it. And your windswept 18th century summer in Italy and Ireland, the pineapple followed you. The pineapple is like Ganesh. I, Mani, brought Ganesh, not into Christianity or whatever you call the thing I was glowing in. Jesus was one ball and Mani was the other. Jesus was my brother. And passing it around, why were you so hurriedly moving the pineapple off the brown windowsill in Ireland that day? Getting ready to go again, I think. Once upon a time, pineapples adorned your brother's bedposts. Your brother was wealthy, Eileen. That was how it seemed to you as a child, because he had a paper route. You do not need a man's wealth. Mani does not need Jesus Christ's fame. People say the pineapple means welcome, but it also screams riche. Grown elsewhere, brought here by magic, the pineapple is a voluminous kind of mail. It will always be delivered. The mail will find you. Whose house are you in now, Eileen? No matter. I think you linked your fate to the road in that shattered moment. You broke with history in its satisfied welcome. There is only comfort now in working closely with me and all the dogs, tracing a path like a Johnny Appleseed of blue fruits and sonorities across the sky. But what it is about letters, for we want to tell the truth at last and not spread the same stale jokes about dogs and mailmen. You have mailmen in your family, and they were dogs, and all mailmen are dogs, some born and some late intuited. We call them impregnated mailmen. Letters are the cave turned inside out. Letters are the magic hidden. Am I against writing? Am I against the text? I am against the pineapple. I broke it. And I am against the letter, too. When they say he goes postal, he is exploding from the pressure of carrying the letter for years. Often he is a soldier. Sometimes they are women, too, in the post office, is the single greatest employer of women in the U.S. government. Women quickly shinny up the pole of power. The pressure of the letter is great. The last great thing about letter writing was cursive, and it is gone. Cursive was a photograph of the nerves of the writer. So, though the load of the letter was great, the flying hand like a bird told the inside of the cave of the writer. It is abstracted stuff. The pressure of the light particles is great inside matter. Imagine when there is no pictures. Each letter rolls in front of a cave and shuts out the light. What else does it do? The last great thing was a typewritten letter. The weight of the body on the tapping machine, the choice of paper. Often the hand has written the address on the outside of the envelope. The body has moistened the stamp and has stuck it on. Less involved, we tear a piece away, we stick it on now. Possibly a hair may get caught in the pressure of that. A dirty person will leave something, if not spit. But how is the mailman against the letter itself? He carries the world. Women too. The U.S. Post Office is the most gender-neutral division of the U.S. government. She carries the compacted dream. The language implodes each time. I have sent her 36 letters of my love towards the end of a century. My wildest love, never before offered in print. I wrote it carefully on light blue paper in India. In another year or two, in a fit of rage, I sent all her letters back, and she burned them. Did she? My love and hers commingled in a pile of ash in the driveway. Another time, a man took all of my young poet letters I wrote him in the 80s and piled them in his sink and burned them. These people are demons, lovers turned unlovers. These tragedies released the news from itself, and somewhere a postal worker's burden was lightened. The letter does not stop. You write a letter and it goes somewhere, and someone reads it, and the letter goes back and forth multitudinously. A letter will never die. It must be burned, I say, to be returned to the light. The post office needs to walk in the blue uniform of time. The mixed cadet, and be seen knowing your messages are being sent by his footsteps and by your thought, the ancient method. Dogs should wander freely, and so should the postal workers. FedEx is evil because it is faster. The post office should be faster still in the Neanderthal way of no trace, not the toxic electronic light of the internet. What is the internet? The observed letter, the unprivate mind. The mind will be open soon enough. The white man came in the middle of the night and he clubbed and axed the children and the women to death. He is not worth the dogs he has working and living with him. Each wounded space will hold a party, and it will. A letter is like a dream of a thought. We mourn the loss of the letter, but dogs mourn the loss of the thought. The postal uniforms could grow softer, longer, and looser, more like tunics. And the post offices could each be decorated by a tapestry such as this, made by idle postal women and men, no longer on a particular route, but wandering aimlessly, being the beautiful letters of our time. To be a season of postal workers wandering in their lightweight, gossamer, mixed cadet blue shirts and pants and gowns. In the winter, the fine blue wool coats reflecting the sky, and when a snowflake falls on the arm of a postal worker, he will stop and smile and gesture to all around him, and they will look at what has landed on him and what is falling in the skies, because he is a dog, and dogs love snow. There is no burden anymore. Neither snow, nor sleet, nor rain shall be anything but colors, and not problems at all. What the sky is doing that I am continuous with, and look at what has fallen on my arm. The hats of the worker will grow lush, wide-brimmed in summer with flowers and fruit beginning to grow off them, and in winter tall feathers to communicate with the birds flying south or staying around. Slowly the hats will fall and drape the bodies of the postal workers, and the clothes will begin to fall away, and the hair will grow wild and curly. The women will be models for all of the other humans. Wild, strong, mammalian women of the U.S. Postal Service carrying nothing but a strong and passionate attitude and a message for everyone, which is their own bouncing back and forth among them for eternity or infinity or today. Time in the hands of the postal worker will become slowly unlabeled. FedEx, And UPS will continue rushing around, but increasingly they will not be carrying anything except speed itself. And eventually they will begin bumping into each other and only each other because the proper refuge will have occurred. And everyone will be beginning to live slowly in the right time with themselves because there is no kingdom now, and the end is only when the road has invited us to leave. Are we ready?
So you have a chance to get 2 times more information.
Я, власне, буду говорити про те, що насправді за допомогою літератури, за допомогою поезії навряд чи можна дізнатися щонебудь, що знаходиться поза межами нашого досвіду.
I will speak about the fact that with the help of literature and poetry, there is a possibility or not to understand what is beyond our understanding.
І про те, що література, поезія, зокрема, саме і базується, саме і пов'язана з нашим досвідом.
And the fact that literature and poetry are closely linked with our experience.
Загалом я доволі скептично ставлюся до можливостей літератури щось в цьому світі пояснити.
I am skeptical about the literature being able to explain something in our world.
От, власне, про це ми зараз і будемо говорити.
This is what we will speak about.
Пояснювати світ за допомогою літератури – безнадійна справа.
To explain the world according to literature is a hopeless matter.
Література – це тріумф неточності, феєрія необов'язковості.
And literature is the triumph of inexactitude and extravaganza.
Єдине, чого можна вимагати від письменників, хіба що дотримання правопису.
What we can only request from writers is to respect punctuation.
Хоча й це не обов'язково.
But this is not mandatory neither.
Розламані лексеми і розбита пунктуація іноді виглядають куди переконливіше за тексти зі шкільних хрестоматій.
Broken lexemes and broken punctuation are sometimes more interesting than school chrestomatis.
Від письменників загалом нечесно чогось вимагати, особливо знань.
It is dishonest to request something from writers at all.
Письменники й пишуть для того, аби показувати речі такими, якими вони насправді не є.
Writers write in order to show things as they really are not.
Використовуючи поезію як джерело точної інформації, ти ризикуєш розчаруватися і в поезії, і в отриманні інформації.
To consider poetry as a way to get information, you can be very disappointed about poetry and getting information.
Складати враження про речі та явища, виходячи з поетичних описів, це те саме, що пробувати зрозуміти психологію людини, аналізуючи номер її мобільного телефону.
To get understanding about taking information from poetry is the same as trying to analyze one person based of his mobile phone number.
Можна, звісно, але є небезпека, що отримана інформація буде неповною.
This is possible, of course, but you have the risk that the information will not be full.
Література загалом містить у собі безліч пасток, схованок і підводних течій.
Literature is the siege of many traps, underwater currents and other problems.
Тому й ставитись до неї слід із обережністю та недовірою.
This is why you should have a position towards it with carefulness and distrustfulness.
Ну або із захватом і любов'ю.
Or with the enthusiasm of love.
Адже так чи інакше всі наші уявлення про світ і все наше розуміння світобудови
one way or another, all our understanding of the world and of the construction of the world.
Всі наші принципи та переконання формуються саме літературою.
All our principles and convictions are formed by literature.
Більшість механізмів та систем функціонування цього світу нами вичитуються в ранньому дитинстві.
The majority of our understanding of the world is getting birth in our early childhood,
і сприймаються як істина.
and it's accepted as a fact.
Нам може пощастити, як всю правду про життя ми дізнаємося з хороших книг.
This is a chance if we can get the information of life from good sources.
І може не пощастити, коли всю правду нам розкажуть люди, яких не варто слухати.
And we can have no luck if this truth is told to us by people who don't deserve confidence.
Так чи інакше, в більшості випадків наш особистий досвід формується за рахунок чужих уявлень та фантазій.
More or less, our understanding is formed by other people understanding and fantasies.
Внаслідок чужих помилок та непорозумінь.
In as a consequence of others' mistakes and misunderstandings.
І ми радо купуємось на це веселе і радісне шарлатанство.
And we happily buy this crookery.
Адже краще вивчати довколишній простір за напруженими і непередбачуваними казками та легендами.
It's better to understand our surroundings by tales and stories
Аніж за сухими статистичними даними чи математичними розрахунками.
than by dry statistic data or mathematical calculations.
Література дає нам можливість бачити речі такими, якими вони нас влаштовують.
Literature gives us the possibility to see things as they are pleasant to us.
Поезія наповнює нас ілюзіями.
Poetry is filling us with illusions.
Головною з яких є ілюзія того, що за допомогою поезії можна все пояснити.
The main one being that with the help of poetry you can explain everything.
Поезія видається нам стихією всеохопною і універсальною.
Poetry is appearing as a natural fact which is universal and is getting everything.
Вона пояснює нам те, що не можна пояснити.
It's explaining to us what is unexplainable.
І вихоплює речі, що знаходяться поза нашим досвідом, поза будь-яким досвідом взагалі.
And it gets things which are beyond our experience or the experience as generally.
За допомогою поезії можна говорити про будь-що.
With the help of poetry, you can speak about anything.
За допомогою поезії можна все пояснити і дати відповіді на всі питання.
With the help of poetry, you can explain everything and answer all questions.
Саме тому поезію ніхто і не читає.
This is why nobody reads poetry.
Всі наші страхи та комплекси,
All our fears and complexes,
всі наші фобії та стереотипи
all our phobias and stereotypes
теж витворюються внаслідок читання книг.
also forms because of the reading of books.
Світ є таким, яким його описали поети і філософи.
The world is as was described by poets and philosophers.
Якби людство мало інших поетів та філософів, воно б мало цілком інший світ.
If the humanity would have other different authors and poets, it would be completely different.
Можливо, більш справедливим.
Maybe more just.
А можливо, навпаки, ще потворніший та жорстокіший.
Maybe completely on the other side, more cruel and deformed.
Наразі ми маємо саме такий.
We have the world we have,
яким його нам описують та пояснюють ось уже кілька тисяч років.
as is described and explained for some thousand years.
Він нам може подобатись чи не подобатись.
We can like it or dislike it.
Але так чи інакше ми маємо з ним рахуватися.
But one way or another we have to count with it.
Іншого світу поети нам ближчим часом не запропонують.
The poets won't propose a different world to us currently.
Оскільки із цим не можуть дати собі раду.
As even with this world they cannot cope.
Тому лишається сприймати його на віру.
This is why we have to meet it with skepticism.
Лишається вірити людям, котрі не викликають довіри.
We have to believe people which don't create belief.
Про те, які мали сміливість проговорювати певні речі.
Those who dared to describe some things.
Не боялися заступати за межу.
They didn't fear to step beyond the edge, the border.
зазирати за лаштунки і заходити в тінь.
To look beyond the arrangements and go into the shadow,
Яка так лякає всіх нас, тих, хто слухає, читає та довіряє.
which so much frightens us who read, listen and believe.
Адже всі ми звикли довіряти чужому досвіду.
We all used to believe the experience of others,
Адже що може бути правдивішим і переконливішим за чужий досвід?
because what can be more truthful and convincing than others' experience?
Лише свій власний досвід.
Only your own experience.
Але у кого з нас він є?
But who has it?
У всіх нас є лише досвід читання.
We all have only the experience of reading.
Іноді цього виявляється достатньо, аби жити довго і померти щасливо.
Sometimes it looks like enough to live a long time and die happily,
Ні за чим не шкодуючи.
not regretting anything
І ні про що не здогадуючись.
and not guessing anything.
За допомогою слів ми можемо називати всі відомі нам речі.
With the help of words, we can call all known things to us.
Для називання речей невідомих завжди можна вигадати нові слова.
For to call unknown things, we can always invent new words.
Загалом речі, явища, емоції та стани не діляться на знані і незнання.
In general, all things and situation don't divide into known and unknown.
Вони діляться на названі нами і неназвані.
They divide into called by us, named by us and unnamed by us.
На ті назви, яких ми можемо відшукати в своїх словниках,
Those who have